All right. Welcome to the PATA Leaders Debates and welcome back to the virtual PATA Annual Summit 2021 under the theme Reflect, Reconnect, and Revive. We have a very, very interesting debate today. I really look forward to it. It's a very interesting topic between two different sort of positions. But before we get to that, again, let me introduce myself for those who don't know yet. My name is Paul Brancan. I am Director of Communications and External Affairs at the Pacific Asia Travel Association. And of course, I'm your host for the annual summit. So once again, here's some technical notes for those of you just to sort of refresh everyone's memory. If you want to chat or submit any questions, please do use the column on the right-hand side of the screen. Send any questions you have to the panelists during the moderated panel, the moderated debate. Feel free to send the questions there. If you want to chat, introduce yourself and where you're from, or your thoughts about the topic, where do you stand, feel free to submit them into the chat function. There, if you're using that's for the web version. For the mobile version, of course, there's a session chat. Just click on that to do the same thing. Submit any questions to the panelists using that function, or as I said, introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you're doing. I will just remind you that there will be sort of a vote. So we'll do a vote at the beginning before the debate. So after the opening position speeches, and there'll be a vote after the closing speeches. That will come up. This is a Zoom link. So in the previous days, it was actually everything was through YouTube. This is actually a Zoom link. So the poll will come up on your Zoom page. You might have to expand your screen. If you're just using Attendify, it's very small. You'll have to sort of expand it so it's full screen to be able to see the whole poll and then vote on your position, whether it's economic benefit or sustainable development. So I just want to just keep you guys aware of that. But I will remind you once it's time to vote. So the PATA's Leaders Debate is today sponsored by our good friends at Airbnb. Now, to open up the debates, please, and to provide a welcome address, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome PATA CEO, Dr. Mario Hardy. Mario.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with you again this year, specifically for this debate. The debate started in 2016 in Guam at the PATA Annual Summit. So this is the fifth one. And again, thank you very much for Airbnb for sponsoring and supporting this debate for 2 years in a row. To me, it's always one of the most exciting event of the year is the debate. It is interesting, it is engaging, it is participative, where we get actually you, the delegates, to also contribute your voice, your views on the debate for today. But it also provides an opportunity for PATA to understand the views of the industry leaders, to think what are the key essential components of tourism moving forward that we need to focus our attention on. This year's question or debate is particularly interesting and relevant to the current situation. We've always discussed in the past the importance of both economic development and more increasingly, we've been talking about the need for a more sustainable future, or even possibly a new tourism after COVID-19, post-COVID-19, that is more sustainable and responsible than it was prior to the current crisis. Now, today's discussion is about which one is more critical, the economic development or sustainability, or we will see at the end of the debate today, but possibly it's a mix of both, a balance between both economic development and sustainability. We often refer to sustainability, and for many may actually think this is about the environment. It is an important component of sustainability, but it is also about being responsible in our tourism development. You can't really actually be sustainable and responsible without some form of economic development as well. Creating jobs and giving opportunities to local communities. So I'm very pleased today that we have great debaters joining us who will give us their perspective on each of the different subjects. We have on one side, Ilya Rasby, who's the Executive Director for Raza Kema Tourism, who has actually been partner with Suresh Singh Budal, who is the face of the future for PATA 2020. On the other side, we have Her Excellency Irina Bakova, the former Director General of UNESCO, who's now partner with Soraya Izmi, who are often referred to as Aya, who represents the PATA Face of the Future for 2021. I hope you will find this debate engaging, motivating. Do contribute, do put your positions and vote. And I look forward to listen to our debaters today. And Rajan, who from BBC, who will be moderating it, I'm sure we'll have a lot of fun at the same time. Do enjoy. It is a debate, but it is also meant to be have a bit of fun at the same time. So please enjoy this debate. Thank you very much. Back to you, Paul.
Well, thank you very much, Mario. I know this is always Mario's favorite part of the annual summit. So it's it's great that he was able to share his thoughts about that. And now that said, Airbnb is our official debate topic partner. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Director of Public Policy for Aipac at Airbnb. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Mike Orgel. Mike.
Thanks so much, Paul. Really privileged to be here at the PATA Annual Summit, and particularly excited about this session. It's always a really good one, always inspiring and engaging. Grateful for Mario's opening remarks and love the way that PATA really forces this industry to engage and think about the inherent tensions of growth and sustainability. So really excited here. As Paul mentioned, my name is Mike Orgel. I'm Airbnb's APAC Director of Public Policy, and my team's job is really to think about how does Airbnb engage with local communities, with governments, industry stakeholders, and to really take that feedback in and to ensure that our business is able to really intersect and be part of that ecosystem. It's truly wonderful to be speaking with you today and to have the chance to connect with so many colleagues in the tourism sector. I think we can all collectively take pride in the fact that tourism has been helping drive economic recovery through many parts of the region already. And I feel very fortunate to be working alongside all of you as our industry continues to demonstrate the important economic role played by resilient, diverse, and sustainable tourism economies. That's been especially true in recent times. As we all know, this past year has been one of many firsts. We've seen many world-renowned tourist attractions that are usually bustling and full of life fall silent for the first time in a very long time. Beaches, restaurants, marketplaces have stood empty, along with museums and art galleries and other typically crowded cultural centers. As the excited chatter of human voices returns to these places, we're reminded of both the powerful connecting force of travel and its ability to breathe economic life into communities across our region. We've all seen firsthand how tourism plays a critical role in bringing people together to foster growth that benefits everyone. Airbnb commissioned research by Oxford Economics, for example, recently showed that Airbnb contributed up to $22.7 billion and more than 925,000 jobs in the Asia Pacific region in 2019 alone. That's supporting about $6.8 billion US dollars in wages. It's just one small snapshot of how tourism creates employment and opportunity in ways that ripple across a range of other sectors. The recent temporary halting of travel has been, for many businesses and communities, a stark reminder of how tourism can serve as a powerful economic empowerment engine. But it's also important that at those moments of silence and emptiness that I mentioned earlier are not forgotten too quickly and discarded. As travel prepares to rebound and passports around the world are dusted off, there's never really been a better time for our industry to pause and to take stock of whether there's a better way to do things. This is an opportune time to ask how we in the private sector can more thoughtfully harness the power of travel to not only continue driving long-term economic growth, but also help deliver more sustainable outcomes for communities. With the return of international tourism on the horizon, it's important we think carefully about how we can help position this region to make the most of this upcoming rebound in a way that continues to benefit local people, cultures, and environments long into the future. As a 21st century company dedicated to serving all stakeholders, including communities in which we operate, this is one of Airbnb's top priorities. For us, growing sustainable travel is not only about minimizing environmental impact, but showcasing local cultures, working with communities to ensure tourism is a positive experience for locals, and being a vehicle for meaningful connection. While short-term rentals, the space that Airbnb operates most prominently in, are one type of accommodation that can provide a more energy and water efficient way to travel for people looking to minimize their carbon footprint, they're also a great way for hosts to help further other aspects of sustainability. We also know that this is something a significant portion of Airbnb guests actively care about. YouGov research we commissioned back in February 2021 showed that the overwhelming majority of the survey respondents based in APAC countries consider, at least sometimes, the environment and sustainability when they travel. That included, for example, more than 90% of respondents who live in Thailand, Malaysia, India, and the Philippines. In fact, the majority of travelers in the Philippines notably said that they're likely to consider the environment all the time when they make their travel decisions. There is a genuine desire amongst travelers to ensure their visits is also a positive experience for locals. And it's critical that industry not only actively facilitates this, but encourages it. Part of this is helping visitors spend their valuable tourism dollars where it matters most. Airbnb has worked diligently over the years on exactly this, dispersing tourism and spreading the positive benefits to areas that have traditionally missed out. Recently, one focus area for us has been encouraging rural visitation throughout the region to help build more resilient, diverse local economies. An example of our work in this space is our ongoing partnerships with peak farmer organizations in Australia, which are aimed at helping to grow rural tourism infrastructure. Another example is our partnership with India's Self-Employed Women's Association, SEWA, which helps economically empower disadvantaged women in rural India. Another focus area for Airbnb is how we can harness our platform and our community to help foster a genuine, meaningful sense of connection that brings people together. The prolonged isolation brought on by COVID-19, both for individuals and communities, has reinforced just how important travel is in maintaining social interconnectedness and forging links between different regions and cultures. It's why we place such a heavy emphasis on locally hosted accommodation designed to allow people to really immerse themselves in local culture and make connections. Our experiences and online experiences products also provide a way for locals to showcase their food, culture, traditions, travelers in a way that's authentic and over which they have true ownership. For instance, we were proud to partner with the Community Development Department in Thailand in 2019 to spotlight Thailand's hidden villages and local stewards of these lesser known communities to guests around the world through online experiences. In 2020, we took that partnership a step further and we signed a 2-year MOU with the Singapore Tourism Board to co-promote unique, authentic Airbnb experiences hosted by passionate locals on our experiences platform. We continue to pursue projects and partnerships that help make a tangible contribution to fostering diversity and belonging in the region. And at the same time, our team continues to work hard every day to help ensure that each stay is a positive experience for our hosts, guests, and the wider community. The overwhelming majority of guests and hosts on Airbnb are respectful travelers and considerate neighbors. However, we continue to invest in measures that aim to provide additional peace of mind for the communities we serve, including through policies such as our global ban on parties, dedicated team and online portal to support local law enforcement efforts, and support tool that allows neighbors to raise potential issues for our team to investigate. This is part of helping to make sure travel facilitated through our platform is sustainable and beneficial to the communities we serve. As travel returns and the empty markets and quiet tourist attractions begin to once again fill with people and life, let's ensure that our industry takes a moment to reflect. There's never been a better time for the tourism sector to pause and consider how we can play an even more active role in making the future of travel brighter and more sustainable in the long term. I'm incredibly excited for this debate and really appreciate the panelists for taking their time to engage on these important issues. And with that, Paul, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mike. And thank you very much again to our good friends at Airbnb. It's always a pleasure to be working with them. So as you've heard, today's discussion is focused on articulating whether economic benefit or environmental sustainability should be the focus of our collective efforts and activities as we plan to restart travel. So let me just show you our opening position speeches. So we're gonna hear from 2 opening position speeches. Now the first, taking the position of environmental sustainability, will be Ms. Irina Bokova. She is the 2-term Director General of UNESCO from 2009 to 2017 and the first woman to lead the organization. As the Director General, she was actively engaged in the UN efforts to adopt Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, focusing on quality education, gender equality, the protection of the world's cultural heritage, and the role of culture for sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Irina Bokova.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you for this very kind presentation. I'm indeed very excited to be here with you today. And I would like to congratulate the Pacific Asia Travel Association for this debate, which I believe goes into the heart of what is needed nowadays in the post-pandemic recovery. In this particular case, the recovery of the tourist industry. As someone who has been into the preparation within the United Nations, the preparation and the work on the Sustainable Development Goals, I do believe that the debate about sustainability, about protection of the environment, about job creation, about social inclusion, and about the future is critical. I'm very happy to be joined today by a young leader, the face of the future of the Pacific Asia Travel Association, Aya. Thank you very much, Aya, for being with me, because I do believe that what you're doing in your projects in the ground indeed is critical. Let me just start by saying that, pick up of what Mario just said. I believe that sustainability nowadays is not just about environment. It is a concept that has been developed through the last decades, which moved forward and included the economic aspect, included the social inclusion aspect. Of course, environment is there, but what actually it is putting the human being, it is putting humanity into the center. Humanity which is in peace with the environment, but also that has well-being, better job opportunities, And that is why it is not by chance that when we speak about sustainable tourism, we speak about the three pillars. It is about the social, it is about the economic development and the environmental integrity. And I would say here, because with my experience with UNESCO, and it resonates very deeply with what UNESCO has been doing and continue to is doing, it is about the protection of world heritage, both cultural and natural. And it is through this lens, I believe, that the cooperation between UNESCO, the stakeholders different in the tourist industry has been developed in times. Now, of course, we are in a very particular moment. We're in a moment where the tourist industry has been heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, probably the most heavily, like I would say the cultural industries in general. We have seen World Heritage sites empty, museums empty, festivals, and all this, of course, is so closely linked with the tourist industry. And the tourist industry has lost an enormous amount of money last year and this year, and probably, and we have to be very realistic, probably the recovery will be slower than in some other sectors of the global economy. But I believe what Mike just said, it's a moment to prepare for the future. And the moment to prepare for the future is indeed based on the sustainable approach. Why I say that this is so important? Because I think sustainability will be the driving force. There has been a huge change only in the last year in the political thinking about building back, but building back better. And in every sector of the global economy, there are questions which are posed. We see a lot of the private sector drive towards sustainability. We are seeing the green investment growing, exploding, I would say. We see a totally new approach towards travel. We know how much nowadays the question about the safe travel is important. And I would say that we see a new type of a sustainable traveler that is emerging in the world. The sustainable traveler is very much concerned, of course, about the environment. He's very much concerned about the authenticity, about community support. The sustainable traveler is very much concerned and want to see indeed local development, local investment. And the sustainable traveler, I have seen some very, very interesting data, is spending more than, as we say, the usual traveler. The industry, I believe, should focus very much on the sustainability. And if we look, and I don't see any contradiction when we speak about economic growth, about jobs in this industry and sustainability. On the contrary, I think if this debate was quite heated, quite animated some decade ago, when this Sustainable Development Agenda of the United Nations started to emerge, and there was indeed talk about sustainability versus jobs versus economic growth, nowadays we see a lot more of a convergence. And even if you look at the last political debates around climate change, with all the different national pledges that have been quite courageous and very important national pledges that have been done literally in the last months, we're seeing this very strong political, but as I said, also economic, financial drive towards sustainability. So if the Sustainable Development Agenda at that time, which with the 17 development goals, is quite comprehensive. It is not just sustainability is not looked outside creating jobs. I'm referring to goal number 8, which is about really decent jobs and sustainable growth. It speaks about tourism there. Or if you look at the goal number 12 about sustainable consumption and protection, I think it's also very relevant. Or when we see about life underwater, the sustainable oceans. And I would add here also goal number 11, where on urban development, sustainable urban development, where we have target 4 about the protection of world heritage. And we know how much world heritage drives tourism forward. And we have been working in my times and at UNESCO, UNESCO continues to work also with the different stakeholders in order to achieve this type of sustainable urban development and the protection of heritage, because it will drive also sustainable tourism. And last, I would say, but not least, I was looking very attentively at a very important document that was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly just a few months ago, which is about the sustainable tourism, including ecotourism for poverty eradication and environmental protection. I think it is very important to look even at the way this title of this resolution has been formulated. It is not outside poverty alleviation, it is not outside environmental protection or sustainable growth. And I do believe that only by looking at all these components, we can really look for the future at a resilient and sustainable tourist industry. So I will stop here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Irina, for those interesting words. So you've heard her opening position speech. You can turn your camera off and we'll come back to you when we get to the debate later. And we'll move to our next speaker. Let me share his screen. So taking the position of economic benefits, we have the Executive Director for Destination Tourism Development and MICE at Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority. The team keeps losing the T, the tourism part. Mr. Iyad Rasby. Sorry, let me get his bio up here. Read him. He's responsible for the continued tourism growth and sustainability of Ras Al Khaimah, especially during a post-pandemic era. His role entails strategic partnerships with leading global partners, including tour operators, destination management companies, global agencies, and airlines in order to drive visibility and visitation to the destination. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Iyad Rasby. Iyad, over to you.
Hi, Paul. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for having us here today and for organizing this. I was really impressed with the organization and the number of registrations that were received for this summit. If you can allow me to share my screen, I have a small presentation to share, which will support our debate, myself and my colleague Suresh Singh Budal. I would like to start by pointing out two things on this topic. Economic benefit does not exclude environmental sustainability at all. Both need to go hand in hand in the recovery effort. We speak about restarting travel, but in the case of the UAE and Ras Al Khaimah, travel has been ongoing with only a small gap where we shut down in April 2020. I will present our case study from a federal and emirate-wide level that I will demonstrate how steady economic focus has led to a faster and more resilient recovery in the UAE and in Ras Al Khaimah. I will also show you how this model led to a positive trajectory in economic recovery, but also supports sustainability when it comes to people and capital projects. So it's an underestimate to say that 2020 has been a year of extraordinary changes. As we entered 2020, we anticipated an exciting new year ahead. As a country, we were set to welcome visitors from across the globe to the UAE for Expo 2020. In Ras Al Khaimah, we continued on our path as one of the fastest growing tourism destinations in the region, ready to welcome over 1 million visitors. However, things did not go according to plan. We all knew what a catastrophic impact COVID-19 has had to the travel and tourism industry and a wider global economy. I want to talk about how we as a destination reacted and pivoted to meet the needs of this new world. It's fair to say that no one was prepared, including us, for a situation where global travelers were put on hold. In Ras Al Khaimah, we needed to adapt and to adapt quickly. This led to a series of initiatives from April 2020 onwards and continues till today. But we did it swiftly and with the support of His Highness Sheikh Saud bin Sadr Al Qasimi, UAE Supreme Council member and ruler of Ras Al Khaimah. In the UAE, we went into a full lockdown for a month only in April 2020 and slowly opened up services, schools, as well as businesses to where we are today, open to visitors. To put this into context, in response to COVID-19 pandemic, UAE ranked within the top 10 countries worldwide with the best leadership during the crisis. Abu Dhabi, the capital of UAE, was ranked #1 for COVID-19 leadership, followed by Seoul, Sydney, Singapore, and Ottawa. UAE also surged to the top of the vaccination race, with the authorities ensuring that the vaccine is available, delivered quickly, and is free of charge. Like in every destination, our hotels and attractions were hit severely with the pandemic in late March into April 2020. But we at Ras Al Khaimah became the first in the region to introduce a wide tourism incentive stimulus package. This initiative was aimed at helping tourism sectors that were facing economic hardships. To bring tourism back to restore consumer confidence, we needed the right safety measures in place in our hotels and attractions. We were immensely proud to be the first city in the world to receive both the Bureau Veritas Safeguard Assurance Label and World Travel and Tourism Council Safe Travel stamps. This meant that our destination was and still is certified as safe, including all 46 of our hotels, Al Hamra International Exhibition and Conference Center. Even the world's longest zipline on Jebel Jais mountain peak is certified. Our visitor profile also shifted with the pandemic. Typically, international visitors make up the majority of guests visiting Ras Al Khaimah at slightly more than 60%. As our key markets of Russia and CIS, UK, Germany, and India were at a standstill, we needed to quickly pivot and reassess our local market, which was right at our doorstep. We needed to go out with the right marketing to entice people to visit and to keep them coming back. And for us, that was not that easy because our focus was always on the international market. While the staycation was already popular, we needed to amplify this concept with a clear and straightforward offer. This took the form of Shortcation, one of the very few summer campaigns launched globally for the domestic market. We continue putting together meaningful offers with other promotions that provide genuine value for our visitors, including our winter campaign, Thunderful campaign, and Live Rack Play, which focus on remote working programs with a long stay offerings. In partnership with RAC Hospital, we were the first destination globally to offer free return PCR testing for all international visitors and continue to do so today. It is another example of economic support for our sector and hospitality partners. The cost is absorbed by us, the tourism board, not the hotels or even the guests. Along with the UAE vaccine drive of its citizens and residents in Ras Al Khaimah, we also took this step further to vaccinate the entire hospitality industry and we will have them completed by mid this year. Since the onset of the pandemic, we saw limited number of flights coming into the UAE. This was a worldwide phenomenon, not just UAE. For example, we used to receive 40 daily flights come into the UAE from Russia, and then it cut down to 14 weekly. Can you imagine? So we took this opportunity to bring in as many flights as possible into Ras Al Khaimah with our partnership with RAK Airport. We knew that we would never bring in tourists to Ras Al Khaimah unless we energized our aviation collaborations. Focus on Russia and the CIS market, as they were the only markets open to travel, with UK, Germany, and most of Europe being closed. Like all tourism destinations around the world, Ras Al Khaimah has seen the significant impact of the pandemic on its tourism numbers. Tourism dropped by almost 28%, but when we compare it, or when it's compared to global numbers, the tourism industry dipped down even further, and in some cases, almost 74%. We were able to mitigate this economic fall by everything I just described. As a result, this led to our destination leading the GCC countries, which is the region in this part of the world, in ADR, average daily rate, and revenue per available room in 2020 and continue today. We also wanted to communicate that the destination was investing with capital projects, especially on Jebel Jais, the highest peak in the UAE, in partnership with RAK Leisure. 1484 opened the highest restaurant in the UAE on top of Jebel Jais. We also launched the world's first Bear Grylls Explorer Camp with accommodation containers, Alpine coasters, Eco Lodge by Mentis, pop-up hotel, base camp, and F&B village. With the onset of the pandemic, the global hotel construction industry suffered with severe delays in the hotel opening pipeline. Working with our hotel operators, we got construction back on track with the following openings slated in this year and early 2020. These projects will add an additional 2,000 rooms to our destination. We will shortly announce also a major investment fund during this year's Arabian travel market to build attractions and accommodation sustainably on the mountain and the destination at large. On a more micro level, we recognize not only the economic ramifications of COVID-19, but the emotional strain on our people, our most valuable asset. CNN called 2020 the year of the mental health pandemic. This year, more than ever, COVID-19 not only hit our industry hard, it ultimately affected employees. Globally, the tourism industry is expected to lose 100 million jobs, and I refer this to Irina's messages as well. Working closely with our hotel partners, we managed to save jobs in our industry. 4,500 colleagues work in hospitality, and through various mechanisms, we managed to save almost everyone's job. As a workforce, we can't expect the best work from your employees under cloud of uncertainty. As a tourism board, we needed to innovate quickly on how we could enhance employee confidence and security in the workplace. As a result, Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority was named the happiest government entity in the Emirate. Ras Al Khaimah can establish itself as a regional leader in sustainable tourism. Working with EarthCheck, the global environmental expert, we co-created genuine sustainable practices. EarthCheck has worked with leading research centers and universities around the world to address the key sustainability and climate change issues facing tourism destinations and communities. Initiatives that we've managed are reduced food wastage, tourism area cleanups, scholarships with American University and Ras Al Khaimah, and green procurement. In conclusion, while taking the side of economic stimulus to drive the recovery, I have argued that this will work when you work quickly. keep partners close, and tackle everything with an agility mindset. We talk about restarting travel, but in the case of the UAE and Ras Al Khaimah, travel never really stopped for long. Ras Al Khaimah is a case study in successful COVID-19 management for an economic and sustainable perspective. What I've described is a best-in-class example of not only restarting travel, but tackling issues straight on to mitigate economic risk from the very beginning. Before I sign off, I would like to leave with a general message about hope. This year, I've often been asked how optimistic I am of the future. And my answer is always the same. In the face of adversity, we will always come back stronger. We will learn, we will adapt, and we will do things differently. The appetite of travel will never leave. We will be ready to safely welcome visitors with definitely open arms. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Iyad. So we've heard from both positions. So Irina actually outlined her position. Iyad gave us his position through his case study of Ras Al Khaimah and UAE. So we're going to come to the part where now it's time for you to vote. Which position do you agree with? Let me share my screen and show you how you can vote. So we'll be using, sorry, I misspoke before. I thought we were using the voting through Zoom, but we're actually using it through Slido. My apologies there. So on the left-hand side, if you're watching the Attendify platform, on the left-hand side, go to the live polls tab, click on that. It'll take you right to slido.com. And there, just put the code 178790. You can either just go to slido.com, that's SLIDO.com, put the code 178790, or just scan the QR code. If you're watching this on your desktop, just grab your phone, scan the QR code. It'll take you right to the poll. So there you'll vote, right? Which position do you agree with? Should there be a focus on economic benefits or environmental sustainability as we look to restart travel? So this is which should be the focus of our collective efforts as an industry. So we will we'll have everyone vote. I'll leave this up here for everyone to be able to get to the poll so you can vote. So this is the first poll. We're going to go into moderate debates, and then we'll see if your position changes after the closing speeches. So I'll leave this here for a few more minutes, and with that, I will introduce the moderator for today's debate. You may have seen him on BBC's The Travel Show. He's been with us at a couple of our webinars, our Destination Insight series with BBC. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Rajan Datar. Rajan?
Thank you, Paul. May I first say it's a great pleasure to join my friends at PATA once again, and I hope you're all well. And it's an honor to moderate a debate on what is surely the most pressing question that facing the tourism industry right now at this junction, one that in many ways drives at the very heart of the dilemma we face going forward. We heard there the opening gambits, the opening salvos, lots to pick up on there. Can I just say quickly from a personal perspective that right from the start of the COVID crisis, in the travel webinars that I attended, after what was the biggest boom period in the history of travel, I think everyone accepted this was a chance to reset the trajectory of travel and tourism towards a more sustainable path. And I do wonder, and this isn't taking a side on either side of the debate, but I do wonder over time how much all those idealistic intentions during COVID will prove to be just idle promises, just kind of words on the wind, if you like. But anyway, now obviously this debate is not a black and white issue. Sustainability is about people and communities, and not just the environment, as Irina pointed out. People need jobs and security, and that means a thriving tourism economy. Nonetheless, I do want to encourage the debaters to not just drift towards a kind of fudging position in the middle, but to create clear space between their positions. So with that in mind, can I welcome back our first two speakers and their respective teammates to this debate. So can I welcome back Irina Bokova, the former DG of UNESCO, and also with her, her colleague in this debate, Surail Hizmi, who likes to be called Aya, and you're from the Lombok Tourism Polytechnic in Cebu in the Philippines, I think, Aya, if you're there, which is a beautiful island that I have visited more than once. And it has had its issues with big disasters in the past, but it's a great place. And on the other side of the debate, can I welcome back Iyad Rasbi from the Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority. Again, lucky, you're blessed with some amazing natural beauty there, which again I'm lucky enough to have seen firsthand. And his Iyad's teammate in this debate, Suresh Singh Budal. Suresh, welcome. He's the CEO, you are the CEO of the Nepal chapter of PATA, and you know what I'm going to say, yes, I've actually been there as well. That's my job. And culturally, environmentally, and spiritually, it's a very, very special place. And it's clearly hugely important to preserve this for future generations. So anyway, the stakes are high. So let's get this right.
Rajan, do you want? Sorry,
yeah,
start. Do you want to? We're going to show the votes first.
I was just going to say, let's go to before I want to just ask a couple of questions. Let's go to see how the first round of votes went. So yes, tell me. Whoa. Okay. So environmental sustainability has won. That the focus on that has won 72% of the vote so far, and focusing on economic benefit has got the support of 28% of the people who have voted. Okay, let's see how that changes. Let me just ask, actually, before I even quiz the two main speakers, I just want a couple of things. Suresh, tell me, why do you think the audience has gone this way? Why is it voted so much in favor of environmental sustainability?
Thank you, Mr. Dattar. And I think they might be waiting my speech as well. So let me say my point of view. So first of all, thank you to PATA for introducing this interesting debate session and providing me with the opportunity to share my thoughts, taking the stance on the position of economic benefit. That should be the focus as we are planning and willing to restart the travel along with or after this pandemic. My teammate, Mr. Iyad, rightly kicked off our position as economic benefit is the best way forward to restart travel. And he pointed the reality as economic benefit does not exclude the environmental sustainability. But the mere focus on environmental sustainability may exclude the economic benefit to the stakeholders. Well, amidst these challenges, these ongoing challenges and uncertainties by the COVID-19 pandemic, we all the professionals in travel and tourism industry are thoughtful of the rapid, robust and responsible recovery of tourism industry. How can we build back better, a more sustainable tourism industry? This has become a big question in front of all of us. But before anything, survival is the first and foremost thing that we have to prioritize in this challenging period. Thousands and millions of people around the world who are dependent on the travel and tourism industry are struggling for their survival. And without having economic return, they even cannot think of their existence. This pandemic has challenged everyone's livelihood and lifestyle, both in personal and professional level. Our income source has been reduced, but the level of expenditure is still same or even increasing every day. So it has been a really difficult time for many to cope with this economic crisis. They are unable to pay rentals, loans, school fees, or even unable to have one meal a day. Can you think about this catastrophic situation running around? So without money to feed their families, how can they worry about sustainability? This is my first question. if we look at the impact of COVID-19 on the three pillars of sustainability, that is people, planet, and profit, our planet is much more relaxed more than ever, with no movements, or you can say less human interventions. But the rest of the two segments you look there, people and profit associated with the tourism industry, are facing the severe hardship and difficulties at the moment. So undoubtedly, the need of the hour is to prioritize on the economic revival and the survival of human beings. The issues like climate change, environmental sustainability being raised and are prevailing since last 4 decades. When the people were not so educated, the majority of the population was below the poverty line. There was no such economic development, advancement you can see, and no such consciousness about the environmental protection or conservation. But now the context has been changed, completely has been changed because of the economic advancement. People are more educated and they are more aware and focused on environmental sustainability. Every government and local administrative bodies have outlined their guidelines for tourism businesses on how to make sustainable use of environmental resources, maintaining essential ecological processes, and helping to conserve the natural heritage and biodiversity. So environmental sustainability is an ongoing issue. This is not a contemporary issue or priority. The contemporary priority is economic revival. And looking at the global impact, the pandemic has affected thousands and millions of lives and livelihoods. The research shows that our sector, tourism sector, has lost about $4.5 trillion with the destruction of 62 million jobs around the globe. Just have a think, how many people lost their jobs? How many businesses, whether it is hotels, airlines, travel agencies, have come to shut down their operations or even existence? Every mainstream tourism businesses are struggling for their survival, and some of them have been already shut down. So if the situation remains like this, thousands of more businesses will be collapsed soon. So what's going to be the top priority for these businesses and the tourism stakeholders? Obviously, the economic revival. Let's have an example of Nepal's hotel industry. Like before the pre-pandemic situation, we had the capacity of accommodating about 2.5 million tourists with the available tourist standard hotels. But we received only 1.2 million tourists in the country. This is the underutilization of our existing resources. So here again, economic gain is going to be the top priority concern for these hoteliers. Also, with the lofty objectives of Visit Nepal year in the 2020, many new investments were made in hotels, restaurant, aviation, and other dependent secondary industries businesses. But due to this pandemic, they could not even start their business. They are facing a financial crisis, even facing the bankruptcy situation. So everyone is looking for the economic transformation. That's all for now from my side.
Thank you. One thing I should say, by the way, is that questions are very much welcomed from the audience. So use the chat function at the bottom of the screen and come up with questions. I'll give an example. Someone's actually made a comment already, Soham Jain, who says, I think environmental sustainability would be the driving force of tourism for generations to come. We need to look at the bigger picture and ensure there is security for all beings on Earth so as to have any sort of tourism in place. Economic benefit would automatically follow once you're focused on making the world a more suitable place. Okay, I'm going to come to Aya in a second, but I just want to get to Irina, seeing as the odds are in a way quite heavily in your favor at the moment with the vote. And we do want to construct a debate here. So Irina, I just want to ask, at this moment, there are, as Suresh says, many hotels, small businesses, people who are struggling. They have got no work at all at the moment. Surely the focus should be on a quick fix, at least. I mean, just a boost to their fortunes, and just think about that first. Let's just get this tourism back on path, and then perhaps start then worrying about the other aspects of sustainability, for example.
Thank you very much. It's a great question and it's a great debate. Let me just go back to the description, to the notion about sustainability. And I insist on that. We're not speaking only about environmental sustainability. It's one part of the equation. We speak also about social inclusion. We speak also about risk reduction, risk preparedness. We speak also about communities. We speak about about jobs, sustainable jobs, and I think this is where probably some kind of a incomprehension comes into the picture, and definitely. And I would like to go back to what Liad, the great presentation Liad did. I think what the example about Ras Al Khaimah is very much supporting what I was advocating for. He was speaking about, and I took notes. He was speaking about reduced food waste. He was speaking about recycling, increase recycling. He was speaking about decreasing energy and water consumption. He was speaking about green procurement, and he was speaking about tourism area cleanup. But this is precisely what sustainable tourism is all about. And this, as a consequence, also is bringing tourists back. It boosts jobs, and it looks brighter into the future. And I could totally agree with the diagnosis that Suresh just made about the tourist industry. And I think we are very clear about it, and we're not naive. And this is the very sad reality nowadays. But my point is, and I do agree that unless we take this sustainable approach, tourists will not come back. It is not some kind of a mechanical work that we are setting anew and then it rolls on. It's really about a complex industry like the tourist industry. Because I'm speaking about Nepal, and I have been many times in Nepal, and I know, and I've been after the earthquake in Kathmandu, the Kathmandu Valley. I've been in the Durbar Square. I know what the destruction was and how much the Nepalese people and the government and the industry was worried about the tourism, because tourism is a big income, I think about 20%, probably more in Nepal. But this is precisely why at that time, and it continues, UNESCO has been engaged on a sustainable manner with the restoration, with the protection of the temples that were destroyed. And when I say sustainable, it was not just we will rebuild, but we were really looking, it's a very, I would say, laborious job. We were looking at every single element of the wood structure of the temples in order to make them to the best possible authentic. On one side, because it's very much about the history, identity of the Nepalese people. It's about the overall, I would say, Buddhist community, but it is also about authenticity and the tourist industry. So through this sustainable manner, I think we can secure also jobs and future jobs.
Okay, so but Irina, what's wrong for the small hotelier in Nepal, for example? What's wrong? We're just going, right, come on, let's boost tourism. That's the main thing. Let's boost tourism now. Yes, we will fix the infrastructure. We will fix the sustainability aspect. And I understand you mean not just environmental, but cultural and all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, unless they get tourists, they are in financial trouble. They are in big trouble. So can we just not at least focus now on boosting tourism?
Well, I'm not an expert in tourism, I have to confess, and I'm very humble among all these leaders of the tourist industry. But my humble opinion is, of course, I would very much like to see more tourists, but we know what is the current situation. Tourists, as I said, sustainable tourists, concerned tourists nowadays are very much interested also in safety. They're interested in sustainability. They're interested in very many of these aspects which are new. So unless we start looking this way at, I believe, at the industry, we won't have a big breakthrough. And it will come. It will come. I'm sure that it will come because people need to know about each other. People are curious about the beauties of this nature on the earth. People are curious about other cultures, about communities, authenticities. I would say more and more. And I think the tourism will become more of a quality. It will go deeper into this understanding about heritage and other cultures. It will become more concerned about all these issues that Liad was speaking about the greening of the tourist industry, about all this energy transition, about local resources and local. I think this is very important. And there are no quick fixes, in my view, my humble view. There are no quick fixes.
Okay, thank you. I think ultimately everyone would agree that the future is obviously sustainable. I think the question is really what should the focus be right now? I think that's where we'll go. But we'll come back to some of those points. And I do want to quiz Iyad on a couple of things that he said as well. But sorry to keep you waiting. Aya, hello, welcome. Could you, do you have any points to make in response to what you've heard from Iyad and Suresh, or do you want to make some points first of your own?
Thank you for the opportunity. Actually, I just want to reconfirm about the concept of the 3P. It's pretty much about how can we survive today in the COVID-19, right? And then the main point, of course, about the application of sustainability. As we already know that from the presentations of Suresh and then from Iyad and then Irina also mentions that the most important thing that we need to concern about the environment. We know that now we're talking about the COVID-19 and then as the huge issue is about economic recessions. But if we look at back, actually compared to all of that, the most problematic one right now is climate crisis. This is because the climate crisis will be worse and affect our future lives. If we didn't put into the top priority of our environment, we concern about the energy, we concern about the carbon emissions, we will lose everything. And then it will be affects many detrimental impact in our future lives. It's not only for our present livelihoods, but also for our future generation. If we come back to our community right now, there are more thinking about the sustainability concept. That's why there are many responsible travelers come out right now. And then even like in the future, I believe there is another possibility for having the quality tourism. This is because people thinking about the hygiene, people thinking about the environments more than before. Even though we know that mass tourism also affect to the productions of waste consumptions nowadays, right? Actually, in this time, in COVID-19 pandemic, we will have more time, and it is a great time for us to reset our destination, because we need to make sure that our destinations will be in the very good conditions before we comes with a better economic opportunity, we comes with many tourists come out. We know that many people right now think that our environment, the quality of our environment reduced because of the mass tourism, right? And then through these times in this pandemic, we should make sure, even though it's only a small actions, to make sure to recover our environment to be better and better. That's why sustainability concepts will be in the top priority. I think that's all from me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to come back to you. Yeah, just one thing picking up on what Aya said there, which is that it's certainly true, isn't it, that in terms of image, the travel industry is seen as being one of the main causes of environmental issues and problems. And you're talking about encouraging airlines to come, and aviation is regarded as being a big problem. Do you not think that perhaps we should be looking at fixing that before we just encourage more and more people to come into Ras Al Khaimah or anywhere really?
Well, look, I mean, this has been a debate since years. I mean, this is not something new that, airlines or flying or even tourism, the effect of tourism on sustainability. We as a destination, we invested a lot on our sustainable strategies and sustainable approaches and activations. But again, I mean, without opening the economy, without hotels or governments being able to generate revenues, how do you expect people spending or entities spending or hotels spending on sustainability? We as a tourism board, we have a significant budget for sustainability. With every year we come up with initiatives, we apply rules, reduce the food wastage, the tourism area cleanup, the scholarships that we also supply and offer. How would we as a government entity, or even at the private sector, spend and expand on sustainability, and the economy is closed? So this is how this is what I've tried to explain during my presentation. It's not either or, it's both. We want to have both. And this is where we should be moving forward. To be able to have a sustainable tourism, let's open those markets. A lockdown or closure will never solve the problem. And the contrary, it will damage the sustainability, because today, if you have destinations that are that have plans for sustainability, they will in a way or another control tourism. But if you close all your markets today, and people would want to go outside, you will see them going to forests and damaging forests. You will see them going to I call them those virgin destinations or virgin areas where people normally do not go there, and start damaging all this. So together, both aligned, parallel, we can open economies and we can invest and work on sustainability.
Can I put another point to you, which is I suspect RAK is in a particularly fortunate position compared to other countries. It's relatively new to the tourism market, so therefore there are no deep-seated fundamental issues that need to be changed. The other thing is you can afford to give free PCR tests to all people coming in. That is not a luxury that every country has. So, I mean, do you accept that perhaps that it's kind of exceptional, really, the Ras Al Khaimah case?
Well, yeah, you might be right. I mean, Ras Al Khaimah is a less crowded destination. So the population of Ras Al Khaimah is around 370,000, although it's the fourth largest emirate in the UAE. But since day one, when we started 10 years ago, when we started developing tourism in Ras Al Khaimah, sustainability was a focus for us. And you're right, we offer a PCR test for arrivals, but we do offer it for return travelers as well. So if you travel to Ras Al Khaimah, you get 2 free PCR tests.
Yeah, but my point really is that you're fortunate compared to other countries, and therefore you, in a sense, you shouldn't be going full steam ahead economy. You could actually right now start really going, right, sustainability first. That's our main priority, jobs second. Because your unemployment rate, I think, is quite low there as well, isn't it?
Well, why? Because the markets are open. We did not shut down our economy, and this is a great example that if we would have had our markets closed, no one can look. Not any government, regardless whoever you are, can keep on investing in different projects without revenues, without opening the economy. So both should be aligned. Together, we can afford it as a government entity, but the private sector can't afford it. I mean, and you can't apply sustainability as from a government perspective. It has to be the whole country supporting this.
Okay. I wanted a second to let the two whiz kids have a go at the two older guys and ask them some questions. But just one thing, which is, are you suggesting, Aya and Irina, that we don't start tourism until we've got proper sustainability measures in place? Aya, if you want to answer that.
Okay. In my point of view, I think we can start for the destinations, but through the staycation, I suppose, which is we just need to make sure that people in this area, in the same countries, will come to other destinations. But we know that now the COVID-19 pandemics for the COVID case now rise this significantly. So I think to open for the international flight is very impossible, because we need to think more about our people in our area before we opens the international flights. And then this is quite problematic, but we already have another alternative that we have VR, right? Virtual tour. So maybe this is one choice that we can do for helping people around the world who wants to know about our destinations. So now in Indonesia, in my hometowns, the most problematic one is about environments. There are many ways around, and then even like in the destinations, we have many problematic with waste management system. So I think it's much better for us to reset our destinations, to prepare our destination well, to be an international level instead of opening in the international for international tourists. I think
So
that's yeah.
So domestic
Yeah,
tourism.
domestic.
Okay. Suresh, I wonder if you heard Irina's point, and I have to reiterate the poll went very much heavily in favor of the sustainable focus. But I want you to perhaps use your forensic skills and just perhaps question Irina on a couple of and some of any of her points that you thought were maybe do not stand up to scrutiny well enough. Go ahead. Any questions you want to ask Irina? You're mute at the moment. There you go. I think you're not. You're still mute, Suresh.
Yeah, I have a question for Irina. Miss Irina, I liked your opening remarks about putting humanity in the center. And the humanity around the world is facing the biggest economic crisis and health crisis as of now. Without economic mobilization, many people cannot think of their health safety and well-being as well. As the entire tourism industry or every individual are facing financial crisis, even your country, I agree with this. Suppose I'm making you finance minister of your country. Suppose you are the finance minister of your country, and you are making the fiscal year budget at the moment. So you have two segments to allocate a fixed amount of budget. One is economic recovery initiatives for the survival of businesses and human beings. And another is environmental sustainability activities. So where will you put the prioritized budget or more budget in which segment, please?
Thank you very much, Suresh, for this question. I'm so lucky I'm not a finance minister of any country nowadays in the world because I sympathize a lot with governments and political decision makers. It's really a tough situation. It's unprecedented. We haven't seen anything. It's very different than the economic crisis some 10 years ago, a little bit more than 10 years ago. And it's really challenges almost every decision that governments and political leaders are taking. Some say about changing the economic model of societies. Some speak, and I totally agree, putting human security into the center of all development efforts. It's about health, of course, it's about education, it's about environmental protection and everything. What I believe important, and I once again insist on that, sustainability is not just environmental sustainability. Sustainability is also about jobs. And this is when governments take decisions, different fiscal, financial measures to support all the international financial institutions. I think this should be the right approach because sustainability is not just one decision. It is not just one budget that is adopted by one or another government, developed country, developing country, least developed, whatever. It is really about the right approach. It is about the method that is used into leading the economy. And here, I think it's very important that the United Nations, the development banks, the development community generally are looking with this lens at all the different decisions. I myself, as a former Director General of UNESCO, have signed many petitions for the alleviation of the debt of the least developed countries, the foreign debt, for the support, the COVAX support, for recognizing the vaccine as a global common good of humanity. And I have pleaded that nobody will save until everybody said it is not just the developed world. So I could continue this line of action. I just believe that what Aya said, opening, of course, it's great if you have the safe measures. We know that there are all different kinds of digital methods and devices for testing, tracing, vaccination certificates, whatever political decisions are going to be taken. And they're probably very important for the opening of international travel. But I do believe that without putting this in place, without having it integrated into the strategies, national and other stakeholder strategies, there won't be, hotels will not be full with tourists, and there won't be tourists unless we really take a different approach. People just are concerned. People are much more sensitive towards issues of sustainability. They're much more sensitive about the well-being, and we just have to incorporate this in the strategies, like Aya said. It's a good moment. A lot of what Mario said at the beginning, and many of you were saying, this is a good moment indeed to look and to make a reset and to try to adapt to the new framework.
Just if I can just come in there on one question, which is that Aya said that she thinks that domestic travel is the best way forward for the time being. But there are countries, for example, island nations, smaller countries that rely hugely on international tourism, who will suffer. There will be small businesses that will go under if it's only domestic tourism. I think the Caribbean is a good example of that. What's your, how would you deal with that then?
I totally agree with you. I was asking myself this question when I was looking at all the different analysis for preparing for this debate nowadays. And of course, when you have a big country, a country that is a middle income country, or Indonesia is a great example, of course, of this. Thailand also, I think, boosting domestic tourism is one way out. And we have seen in other circumstances, even here in Europe, where borders were closed, it was domestic tourism that was really driving this. And I sympathize a lot with those countries, the small island developing states, some other countries which rely heavily on this. I think the way out is really prioritizing this in all the packages of development. I can just say that right now, for example, UNESCO is supporting a very interesting project. UNESCO is working with Thailand, UNESCO is working with the Philippines, also with Malaysia, an interesting project of sustainable tourism management. So it's important to prioritize in all the projects in international cooperation, the way to, on one side, restructure this tourism and prepare it also for the future. But as I said, there are no quick fixes, unfortunately. I wish they were, but I have to be very frank as what I'm thinking.
Okay, thank you, Irina. I want Aya, if you could possibly, having listened to Iyad's speech, if you could possibly, are there any points or questions you want to pick up from what he said?
Okay, thank you. I think I have one question. This is related with our previous trend for mass tourism. And how can we face for the next future? Is it the same as mass tourism coming, or it is another kinds of the tourisms will be happens like a quality tourism?
Yeah.
What do you think?
We're lucky. I mean, Ras Al Khaimah is not a mass tourism destination. So, and we enjoy the quality tourism, if you call it quality. But for the next 2-3 years, I wouldn't see a mass tourism. And when we say mass tourism, we're considering destinations that receive between 10 million tourists a year onwards. So we don't fit within this category. But I don't, it will take a bit of time for mass tourism to come back. That's why I totally believe that now is the right time to do both. I mean, the economy should open again, and the sustainability as well. It is the right time to have both. The economy should benefit. The economy should generate revenue to be able to spend on sustainability, and the human sustainability. What Suresh had referred to is very important. We know from ourselves. I mean, saving as job is sustainability. You know, and we've only managed to do so by opening the market up and generating, you know, revenue to the hotels to keep those 4,500 jobs that we have in the destination. And look at it from a bigger picture, that 100 million jobs are about to be lost worldwide in the tourism sector. So how would you be able later to get this back and have it on the right track if you do not open those markets?
What do you say to that, Aya?
Okay, this is a great question. We believe that there is another transformation for another kinds of job. Right now, maybe we just rely on the tourism sectors, right? Maybe in the next year, or we don't know, maybe the next years, there are many innovations that will create a new job. Even like in the previous time, in 3.0 era, we don't know about internet, we don't know about the platform application and so on. Right now, there are many development happens, right? Due to the development of technology, I believe, due to the development of technology and people now thinking more about sustainability, there are many jobs will be created, even in our hometowns. For example, in my country, we have one project called Bamboo Ecotourism. Actually, in the previous time, there is no destination in the area called Sembalun, which is one of the trekking areas that people just stay one night and then they go to the mountain. But now we developed one of the attraction there. We developed another kinds of activities that we introduce about the cultures, about the environments around, and then people just get excited to come. And then there is one of the job opportunity that we can develop maybe in the next few years or in the next few months. We don't know. That's why the technology and then the human resources is very important thing that we need to consider about.
Okay, and I want to just talk, you mentioned mass tourism, and there are certain economies right now, or have been traditionally, always, very dependent on mass tourism. Are we saying, partly because of COVID and because of the new way of thinking, that mass tourism is coming to an end, or it's certainly going to be much more reduced and much more rationed than before? What do you say to that? Suresh, let me ask you that.
Pardon?
Can I ask you this? Mass tourism, I mean, it's obviously a big generator of economic income for many places and many countries. Are we seeing the end of that?
Yeah, as Mr. Yad said, like for the time being, we cannot focus on mass tourism. Obviously, the priority will be on the low scale, or you say like a naturally isolated destination, the travel to our naturally isolated destination for the first thing. I want to add some more points on, like, in addition to the response of Miss Iana, like she said, people cannot travel at the moment. I don't think so, because people are desperate to travel if they are provided with the safety assurance and better coordinated and integrated support between the countries, you know. So let's take an example of Nepal. Nepal is famous for mountaineering expedition. This is the strength of Nepal's tourism product. Amid concern of the second wave currently running, you know, this pandemic, we have issued more number of permits for mountain expedition to the Everest in comparison to the pre-pandemic level. So as of now, for this spring season, there are 394 permits have been issued by the government of Nepal to climb Mount Everest. And whereas it was just 381 before the pandemic level, before pandemic started in 2019. So this is like people are really desperate to travel, so they will travel anyhow, and we cannot stop, when we cannot stop our initiative, or we cannot wait for when this pandemic will be contained. Perhaps it may not be contained, or we have to adjust with that, or the vaccines will have to eradicate this pandemic. So we have to start economic initiative, and this debate is all about whether to focus on economy or environmental perspective as of now, where we are at the moment. So I think economy is the priority, and I have to advocate for my stand as well. So and most of the assessment and decisions are made on the emotional basis. So maybe the audience or our we cannot say opponent, but they are also assuming that they are also putting their points on emotional basis, but it should be rational. Let's be practical, because we need economic mobilization. So without economic mobilization, we cannot restart the travel industry. We have to restart our travel industry.
Let me pick up on that, because Irina and I mean, put it this way, it's very easy to say, and I don't mean this in a rude way, but it's very easy to say sustainability is the future. We all agree. We know sustainability is right. We know that we need diversity. We know that we need more women in tourism. We know we need cultural heritage to be preserved, all those things. But that means hard decisions now about whether a tourism continues in the same way in all over the world. So what hard decisions can you see having to be made by certain destinations about their tourism offer? I mean, I'll go to you first, Irina, about that. I mean, let's face facts. Think, in order to achieve what you want to achieve, it's a trade-off. We're going to have to do something.
Well, I don't think that some of the issues that we have been debating now started just from this pandemic. I think a lot of these issues around sustainability, about reconciling, creating jobs and protection of heritage, for example, because I do insist on that. I have been very much involved, and this echoes deeply with my experience. It is not an issue that started with this pandemic. And I think the most visible example, or a couple of visible examples, is the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, when the corals are dying, unfortunately, because of unsustainable measures, because of the climate change, of course, El Nino, and a lot of other, I would say, unfortunate construction decisions that were taken. And now it is understood, and it is acknowledged as one of those examples, really, where we could lose an incredible treasure for humanity, not just for Australia. And I would say, consequently, that is driving a lot of tourism. And this is where it is important. And of course, here in Europe, I can give an example with Venice. It's a very clear example also of clearly unsustainable tourism, mass tourism, combined, of course, with climate change, with rising seas, and all the consequences of this. I believe that, that's why I say it did not start with the pandemic. I think the pandemic nowadays just reviewed some of those bottlenecks, some of those deficiencies, some of those things that we had indeed to probably take before, but we didn't for one or another reason. But not only, of course, I don't limit only to that. And I think what Sirius just said, it is not about we just don't let people travel. But here in the chat, I saw somebody said, you have to win the trust. Travelers have to win the trust of these destinations. And this is where I believe the challenge and the difficulty comes. And I hope it comes sooner, so that these businesses are developed, they bring jobs, revenues to the countries, in all this. But this is the difficulty of winning trust of the travelers. And when I say travelers, we have to know that travelers also are changing nowadays. They have a different mentality, and they are much more concerned about the same issues that we're debating, about sustainability, about local cultures. They want to support communities. I think this is very important, that part of the sustainability definition, I would say, that was adopted a long time ago by the World Tourist Organization with the support of UNESCO. It is about communities being at the heart. It is about those 80% of SMEs that are losing from the tourist industry nowadays, from this devastating impact of the COVID-19. It is about supporting this SMEs, I think, in communities. I think this is important to understand.
I think it's interesting what you're saying there. I think the WTTC did a poll recently and they found that 58% of travelers now think about the environment as being the #1 factor when before they traveled. So they obviously the mindset is changing, and that's a good thing. We had one question or one point made by somebody who's watching who said, what about ecotourism as being the perfect solution because you're creating jobs and it's sustainable? But I'm going to ask each of you this. I mean, do you think, not all jobs can be ecotourism, can they? And not all tourism can be ecotourism. Iyad, what do you say to that?
Well, I agree. I mean, not all jobs could be part of the ecotourism, but it is the future. We in Ras Al Khaimah have a couple of projects, especially on Jebel Jais. Jebel Jais is an adventure destination within Ras Al Khaimah, and it's an eco-friendly. So everything up there is sustainable. And even the hotels up there as well. So it's something that we should introduce. We already did as a destination and support. That's what we're doing, and I think this is the future. It will take a bit of time, but you cannot depend only on ecotourism as at this stage.
What do you say? #1 is ecotourism. You've got the bamboo thing, the project, but can ecotourism be the only? Is it the answer? Is it the panacea? Does it solve everything, or as Iyad said, not every business can be an ecotourist business?
Of course, it's not the only business can be built in here. Ecotourism is one of the alternative because this is kind of the tourism. Actually, there are many kinds of tourisms that we can build, like volunteer tourism, like adventure tourism, and so on and so on. There are many types of tourism, and then ecotourism is one of them. But the most important thing, if we build the business in hospitality industry, of course, in hospitality and tourism industry, of course, we need to consider about the concept of sustainability, like how can we use the energy efficiently or effectively. Of course, it will be reduce the operational expenses as well. So instead of thinking about another like kinds of the eco, we need to consider about the system. We need to consider about how can we manage everything in the right way. That's why we talk about sustainability concept.
Okay, I think we have 10 minutes left, I'm being told, for the discussion, but I want to ask about to the environmental or the sustainability people, and it's a point that Iyad made. What about aviation? If you're making hard choices, do you start taxing aviation, fuel in particular? Is that what we start doing, which means higher prices? What do you say to that, Irina?
Well, there are different ways of looking at this. It's about aviation industry. It's about the carbon tax nowadays that is very much debated. Also, I think there will be kind of a mix of all these issues, because at the end of the day, the pledges that are being increasingly made, and even more and more courageous, I would say, pledges in terms of carbon reduction and the carbon footprint nowadays definitely will lead to some kind of a restructuring also in the aviation industry. Looking at big planes versus smaller planes, you know, it's really quite a changing environment. But can you, if you allow me, I just want to give another example of how sustainability is built within both the tourist industry, the local industry, the trade. And this example is with Indonesia, because I just want to pay tribute to Aya also, and as a young leader, and another country that really plays a hugely important role in this global debate about sustainability. In 2014, we at UNESCO organized a big conference on culture and development in Florence, and we invited an Indonesian the only country that had, maybe still has, a ministry which is called Ministry of Creative Industries. It's not Ministry of Culture, it's not Ministry of Economy, it's of Creative Industries. And they were looking at, I guess, at, everything that was linked with the protection of heritage, aspects of cultural tourism, and others. And Minister Pangestu at that time, she was the minister, she was opening the conference, she stood up in a batik, in an Indonesian batik, that was just recognized by UNESCO as an intangible heritage of humanity. And she was telling the story of this batik, how it was forgotten. It was just not considered to be something to be shown to the world. And then after UNESCO recognized it as an intangible heritage, and also with the specific policy decisions, it boosted, and now it became an industry, it became a huge industry, but not just any industry, but sustainable industry, with the very traditional colors, the very traditional way of doing it, creating enormous amount of jobs, driving tourism, and representing a big export of the country. So this is just an example, indeed, of a new way of looking, a new industry being developed, which is sustainable, which respects local culture, which contributes to creating jobs that are not going to be exported afterwards, and also create some kind of a social inclusion. I think we need more examples like that. So this is for Aya.
So Aya, your teammate is supporting you, which is all good.
Yeah, I really love it.
Ian, I wanted to ask you, really. I mean, just going back to the, obviously the economy is crucial. Small businesses rely on tourism to keep going. But what if they do have long-standing sustainability issues? This could be that, for example, local communities are being exploited or being ignored by the big companies that are in the same area. I'm not particularly so talking about RAK here, Ras Al Khaimah here, but just generally, if that's the situation, would you suggest that there's a pause, or would you understand the call for a pause and go, right, we need to sort out these sustainable problems. We need now, while we've got the chance, we need to sort it out now and just hold off on tourism so we can fix it.
Yes.
Well, look, I mean, sorry, is this for me or for Aya?
Yes, for you, Ian. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So I'll come. Yeah, obviously Aya's going to agree with me, but yes.
Well, look, I mean, yes, it is the right time if to do so. But again, I mean, setting strategies and planning will definitely help applying sustainability and maybe rules as well. I mean, in our strategy here, even in Ras Al Khaimah, we set rules for hotels when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to waste management, so you can do that. And if I mean, it's always the right time, whether we are in a pandemic or not. Let's do it. We support it. We went into partnership with EarthCheck and with so many other associations to support us and build and help us setting our 5 years and 10 years strategy in terms of sustainability. So yes, I mean, it's always the right time. Just do it. I mean, we've been doing it for the last couple of years. We want to continue doing it, but this does not mean that you stop the economy. It does not mean you close the market. It does not mean you switch off the tap. No, we can do it both. We've been doing it together. Let's do it now. Maybe for mass tourism destinations, yeah, they might need a bit of time to apply such strategies. It might be the right time for them. For us, I mean, we've been doing it, and we will continue doing this.
Okay, thank you. We're just getting towards the end, but I want to go around to everybody and just ask this simple question, which is, are you optimistic that in, say, 5 years' time, the state of tourism, the state of the tourism industry will be in a far healthier state? I'm not really talking about COVID, but just generally in terms of its offer, in terms of its sustainability as well, and in its inclusivity as well. Are you confident and optimistic that in 5 years' time, the world will be a better place in that sense? I'm going to start with you, Suresh, because we're talking about your generation as well. This is your generation of tourists, really, who are the future.
Yes, of course. For the foreseeable future, the health, safety, food hygiene, this is going to be a prime concern for visitors. So every destinations now have to ensure the necessary protocols, at the same time needful measures to ensure to win the trust and confidence of the visitors. So definitely, I believe after 4-5 years, we will have a better and more responsible tourism industry.
Okay. How about you, Irina? Are you confident?
Yes, yes, I am. I'm thinking there is a lot of drive towards sustainability, and I'm sure that in any sector of the world economy, we are seeing a profound change. I don't see any, I would say, from that point of view, different views on tourism. On the contrary, just because tourism indeed is about people, tourism is about reflecting everything that we stand for, bringing it to other countries, to other regions. I think there will be a lot of drive for sustainable tourism. I agree, it's not just ecotourism, it's also cultural tourism will develop more and more, a lot more interest in other cultures, in other communities. What I think is very important from the economic point of view, and this is also, you did ask this question a while ago, I think the benefits of the tourist industry should be fairly shared. The benefits of the tourist industry should not go only to big companies or investors and all this. And I think this is critical also for having sustainable tourism. The fair share of the benefits with the local communities, with the people that provide it, I think is one of the keys for having the future of sustainable.
And how can you make that happen? How can you force, if necessary, the big companies to share?
Well, I think there are so many different incentives to do this. There may be fiscal incentives, there may be different kinds of regulations. I know that the World Tourist Organization is working on harmonizing. There is also the declaration on the ethics of tourism, international tourism, which was launched also by the World Tourist Organization. UNESCO just recently launched a pledge with some partners. I think there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of leverage in order to make this happen. With just governments and international, I would say, standard setting institutions have just to take their responsibility and to do this.
Thank you. So to you, Aya, I mean, look, there's a lot of people out there who don't really give a damn about sustainability. They just want to go on holiday. They want to lie on a beach. They want to have a lovely time. There's a massive pent up demand. Are you confident that your generation and people in the future will create a world that is much more beneficial to all of us in terms of tourism?
Yes, I believe. Because in my hometowns, in my case, actually tourism, thanks to tourism changed everything. In the last decades, we just rely on the oil, and then with mining, there are many local people that have illegal mining to improve their economic growth. But now, because of the tourism, many people just realize how they can preserve the nature, how they can sell their natures to people and then get money from it. I mean, not only because of the tourism, to be honest, but all people right now realize that mining is not sustained. They need to find another thing to save their lives. That's why there are many things that they can't develop, and then now people realize that how important for them to save everything, to save their environment, their natural resources, and then so to make to use it effectively, efficiently, and then thinking about their future generation. So I believe that people, even like next 5 years or 10 years, they will realize more about sustainability and they will apply the sustainability concept.
It's a very interesting point you make there as well, isn't it? That tourism offers an opportunity for people who are perhaps working right now in industries that are damaging to the environment or not necessarily very good for anything really, that they can move away from there into tourism, and tourism offers them a more viable, a more sustainable future. And that is how we should maybe build tourism. I'll leave the last point to you before we get to the closing speeches. I'll leave the last point to you. I mean, obviously, Ras Al Khaimah was doing well before the whole COVID thing, and as you said, it's only been 1 month that it's actually been out of reach or out of touch. Are you confident that in 10 years' time, not just in your region but around the world, people's mentalities and that will be much more focused on a holistic view of tourism?
I'm confident, and I'm sure in 10 years' time, the way we look at sustainability, or how everyone does, will change, will develop. I also advise that governments work together closely on this, and maybe exchange experience as well. Some countries are well established in terms of sustainability, are well advanced. Some might require educational support, or maybe even financial support. So I think governments should work together, should work closely. At the end of the day, this is something that I mean, the whole globe will benefit of. It's not a country or a continent. So we're more than happy. As UAE, as the government of UAE, we lead in this region in sustainability, and we were the first to raise the flag with so many other countries when we had to. So no, working together will I'm sure support the globe.
So you'd like you would offer cooperation with other economies, other countries which have perhaps more problems than you in terms of getting to a more sustainable future. Yeah,
I'm sure. I mean, this is when I say when countries should work together or should work closely, and then they'll be deciding what kind of support will be required.
Okay. Well, listen, it's been absolutely brilliant. We haven't quite ended yet because we're getting to closing speeches, but can I thank you all, because that was really constructive, really interesting. I'm optimistic after that. Obviously, the real world will have its own points to make, but we all agree that sustainability is the way to go. The question really is how much that is implemented in the immediate future, how everything here will pan out post-COVID, and let's hope we get to a post-COVID situation where travel is much easier. All those things are in the mix, but I'm really encouraged by what you're saying, and I hope that the leaders out there who actually make these decisions will also, and business will also kind of concord with your views. Let's leave now then with the closing speeches from Suresh and Aya. I'll start with you, Aya, if you'd like to make the closing arguments for the focus being on sustainability rather than economy. Oops, you're on mute. Sorry, you're on mute. You're still on mute. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Well, it's my pleasure to be of this great panel. Thank you so much. As a representative for the young generation who concerns about tourism, environment, and culture, let me confirm our position in environmental sustainability toward our future tourism. As we already know, we have suffered severe economic depletions due to the imposed lockdowns and restriction in some economic activities. This impact was 9 times worse than the terrorist attack, and over 100 million lost their jobs in tourism. On the other hand, we have also witnessed a considerable improvement in the quality of our environment. Previously, we faced detrimental impacts of mass tourism toward our Earth, polluting our landfills with a massive production of plastic consumption, degraded our biodiversity and heritage sites, as well as producing massive carbon emission through traveling. Today, the environment starts to restore. The pandemic situation significantly improves air quality in different cities across the world, reduce greenhouse gas emission, lessen water pollution and noise, and reduce the pressures of tourist destination, which may assist with the restoration of ecological system. So, economic depletion is not only the issue. Another trivial issue is our environment and climate change. Although there is a considerable improvement in our environmental quality during the pandemic, we are facing the biggest issue in biodiversity conservation. It is highly likely that 7% of world tourism related to wildlife tourism, and as the subsequent closure of natural protected area have caused loss of the employment and livelihoods. Many heritage sites are neglected due to large-scale social restriction, of course. There are also some negative consequences of COVID-19 as we find, such as an increase of medical waste, hazardous use and disposal of disinfectant, masks and gloves, and the burden of untreated waste continuously endangering the environment. So we are now talking about COVID-19 as a huge issue due to the impact of an economic recession. But compared to all of that, the climate crisis will be worse and affect our future lives. Climate change is an existential threat of our times, bringing rising sea level, extreme weather patterns, putting millions of lives and livelihoods around the world in danger. Most countries, especially in Asia Pacific, which are low-lying islands, are particularly vulnerable. As young generations, we need to reflect on possible vulnerable impacts of climate change or another kinds of the impact of environments to our future livelihood by embracing the sustainability concept before climate change or another impact of environment become a critical global priority. It is also important for us to contribute to our future tourism. To do that, we should work together, creating a connection to many stakeholders through partnership to create innovative, resilient, and inclusive tourism in this new normal, as well as supporting each other in promoting a better environment. As we know, tourism industry have generated more waste that have turned destination and rivers into garbage dumps. This pandemic is a great time for us to reset the destination, even though with a small action. I believe by preparing our destination in this pandemic will bring better economic opportunity and living value inherent to our future generation. Let's take this global disaster, the COVID-19 pandemic, as a chance for us to create and promote better tourism with environmental consideration to achieve sustainability for us and for our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aya. Thank you very much indeed. Well done. To you, Suresh, finally, tell me, convince us, why should our focus be on the economy and economic growth right now rather than sustainability?
Thank you, Mr. Datar. I think lots of points have been already discussed here. So I will sum up very shortly. I will stand on economic benefit as the top priority of the hour. Let me repeat some of the key points once again. So as we all know that tourism is a major source of income, foreign currency income for many destinations and the countries like Nepal, which is an important contributor to the country's balance of payment as well. But the disruption caused by this global pandemic has declined the economy, which is leading to more difficulties and challenges for livelihood across the world. The businesses are being closed, people are jobless, many informal or daily wage-based workers are more at risk of falling into extreme poverty. So tourism being a vital contributor to the economic livelihood of millions of people around the globe, the current priority is to support businesses and people with economic revival and income generation alternatives. Sustainability, environment sustainability should not just be the agenda for discussion. It must be the way of life. I think it should be the responsibility of every human beings by self-actualization, as well as by enforced bylaws on protecting our mother nature, the environment. Tourism is a multifaceted and integrated industry with relations to many other segments, wherein environmental sustainability is one important segment. Although environmental sustainability should be an integral aspect of tourism management, the travel and tourism sector is urgently looking for economic revival. As we all know that the multifaceted benefits and importance of tourism. Tourism is the most important sector which always helps to create a fine balance between the economy and environment. Tourism has become the means for environmental conservation and protection of livelihood. So a better economy ensures a better livelihood for a better conservation. When people realize the economic importance, they start to think about conserving their natural resources and natural heritage and environmental resources. For example, because of tourism, Nepal has done an exceptional job in wildlife conservation. There is an inspiring increase, in the number of Royal Bengal tiger in Bardia National Park, one-horned rhino in Chitwan National Park, and so on. So, and recently there is a mountain cleaning campaign going on. So they realize the importance of tourism and that they preserve their environment. So the environmental sustainability will always be there if we ensure a better sustainable economy. The three pillars of the sustainability are like the three legs of a table. All three legs must be in good standing to balance the table. The priority concern to a particular one depends upon the denting and painting required at a particular time. So similarly, we have to equally take into consideration the planet, people, and profit in our mindset whenever we talk about the sustainable development of tourism. But however, the compelling necessity of the hour at the time of this economic crisis, the Sustainable Tourism Development Initiative must prioritize intensifying on economic recovery and economic benefits to the stakeholders in tourism. So that's my point. And at the end, I would like to recall the 2020 theme of PATA, collaboration for tomorrow, which is still relevant and contextual to combat against this unprecedented challenge or crisis. People are desperate to travel, as I already said, like they are willing to travel, provided with the safety assurance and better coordinated and integrated support between the destination and source markets. So to ease the travel between the countries, so international coordination, collaboration, and integrated approach is very important. I think the 4 C's, that is communication, cooperation, coordination, and collaboration among the public and private sector organizations and the stakeholders in the industry is very important to achieve the rapid, robust, responsible, and sustainable recovery of the tourism industry from the ailing impact of this COVID-19. At the end, the ultimate goal and ultimate talk is all about to have an immediate economic gain and economic recovery. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Can I just say finally that if the future of tourism is in the hands of people like Suresh and I'm pretty confident, I'm pretty happy because that was brilliant. And I think I don't think you'd ever debated before in this kind of situation. I'm not sure about you, Suresh, but it's not necessarily that easy. So well done. Thank you, all of you, for contributing. I've had a brilliant time. And let's find out what's happened to the vote out of interest. And let's go back to Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Well, thank you so much to all of our speakers and of course our moderator, Rajan. Really interesting discussion. And it was actually some really interesting comments. There was comments on both Attendify, there was comments on both on the Zoom app. So, the idea of these debates is, there is no winner or loser. There is a balance between economic benefit, environmental sustainability, but it's to have the discussion, right? And it's good that we all get together to have the discussion and really just have a more thoughtful way of moving forward. This is going to be, we're looking at long-term sustainability, and a lot of times we can't just jump in and without really taking our time to discuss it and really lay out our plans. So with that, I just want to thank all of our speakers. You guys can all turn the cameras off and say goodbye. One last wave goodbye. Thank you. And we have our last round of voting. So I'm going to show the screen again for how to vote. Or so if you haven't changed your mind, you don't have to vote again. If you've changed your mind, you actually can go back and change your vote. So if you thought it was environmental sustainability and they changed your mind, you can go back to economic benefits. If you haven't voted, and there's many of you who haven't voted, please go and vote now. There were some good comments too. I thought there that could also change people's views on their position. So feel free to vote. So I'll give us another 10 seconds here on screen and for you to go out and vote. We're going to go to some closing remarks, and then I'll show the final vote after that. So we'll put all this information back in the chat in case you need it again, but it's already there. We'll put it back there again. And with that, we'll come to our closing remarks for the debates, and of course, an invitation to PIS 2022. And with that, please welcome back Mr. Iyad Rasby. Iyad. Is he still here? Iyad, are you still here?
Of course. I'm
Okay,
always here.
okay. All right, I'll turn this over to you. You can give your closing remarks and invite everyone to Ras Al Khaimah next year. Over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Well, I'll end it by as Raki Phillips, CEO of Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority, welcomed you to the virtual PATA Annual Summit 2021. It's my pleasure to give the closing remarks. For those for you who may not know me, my name is Iyad Rasri, and I'm the Executive Director of Destination Tourism Development for Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority. I was part of the leaders' debate that took place this afternoon, where I presented a compelling case study for recovery tourism in Ras Al Khaimah and the larger United Arab Emirates. This year's theme, Reflect, Reconnect, and Revive, has given us a lot to think about as we work together to restart travel globally. With the virtual PATA Annual Summit 2021 coming to a close end, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Mario Hardy and his team for putting together this amazing program and lineup of best-in-class tourism specialists and speakers. Our valued partnership with PATA has given us a voice and a platform over the years to discuss a range of travel and tourism topics and issues. As in-person meetings and conferences start making a comeback, as seen at the WTTC event taking place right now in Cancun, Mexico, I'm looking forward to welcoming you personally in March 2022 in the beautiful and sunny emirate of Ras Al Khaimah. Until then, our work together does not stop. We look forward to future collaboration, thought leadership, and positive momentum, as well share our collective experience for a more vibrant travel and tourism landscape in 2021 and beyond. Thank you, and see you in Ras Al Khaimah in 2022.
Thank you very much, Iyad. And thank you so much for joining the debate. Yes, I do hope all of you join us next year in Ras Al Khaimah. I think I've said it before. I've been there. I was there last year. It's a fantastic destination. Actually, I've been there twice. There is a lot to offer, a lot to do, great food. I really did enjoy, I think me and Mara did enjoy the food a little bit too much. But yes, I do hope all of you join us next year. So we're going to reveal the final votes. Let's see, my colleagues here will share the final screen here. Has it changed much? Well, we've got more votes here, but with environmental sustainability still, it still reigns as what should be the focus of our collective efforts and activities as we plan to restart travel. Well, that's great. I think, I said there's no right or wrong answer, and this isn't really just one issue or the other. Really, this is, when I always talk about debates, I always say it's more of a needle, and which way does that needle sort of tilt towards? So, I guess this is saying that really we should focus a little bit more on environmental sustainability. I would assume that maybe economic benefit will probably just be there anyway. There's pent-up demand, and we don't need to worry about the economic benefit where people will travel. So I would assume that's what people assume when they voted here. It changed a little bit here at 68. Anybody else want to change their votes? I'll give you about 2 minutes to change your votes. All right. And as we do that, let's stop showing this. You can let me know if the votes change, and I'll just wrap up here as we wind down the end of today. So we've seen the final votes. I'll see if they changed in the next 2 minutes or not. But once again, thank you to all of our speakers, Irina, Suresh, Rajan, Iyad, and Suryal. It was really, really engaging and insightful discussion. And, that's what debate's about. It's about, getting us and having all of us talk, not just everyone on stage, but as I said, there's been a lot of comments on both Zoom and in the Tendify. So it's just really stimulating that discussion and, working together to, as I think Suresh putting it, cooperating together to help restart travel. So once again, thank you to our platinum sponsor, the Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority, our gold sponsor, the Global Tourism Economy Forum, our official debate topic partner for today, Airbnb. Thank you so much. Our session sponsor from yesterday, session 4, 2031, and of course, our sponsor, iFree Group. But we are not done. So we're done with day 2, but we're not actually done with the PATA Annual Summit. There is the annual general meeting, which is for members. There's the student chapter roundtable discussion for the student chapters. However, anybody can join our session tomorrow morning. It's PATA 360 degrees for your business. This is not just for members. This is for members and non-members. If we put on this event, but we want to be able to show you what other activities that we've done and that we plan to do that can help you build your business, your brand, your people, your network, your insights. So please do join us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. That's 10 a.m. Bangkok time. The whole team will be here. We'll be presenting our different activities that each department's doing. You can ask us questions about what we're doing, some of our upcoming activities, our events. So please do join us. It's a bit more informal. I won't be wearing the suit and tie. Feel free to ask us anything. After that, in the afternoon, of course, we have the annual general meeting. So that's for PATA members in good standing only. If you're a member, please do join. If you want the link to join, please do email us. You can email me at paul@pata.org, fairly easy. Same thing with the student chapter roundtable discussion. I think if you're a student chapter member or a youth, you can join. I think you just have to email Alethea, or you can just email me, paul@pata.org, and I'll pass it to the appropriate departments. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Here's my information if you need to contact me about any of the things that happened today, yesterday, or what's happening tomorrow, anything that's all happening at PATA. All information's on our website. Thank you again to all our partners, supporting media partners. Thank you to our speakers today, Rocky earlier today, and thank you all of you for joining us this afternoon. It's always a pleasure, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow morning at PATA 360 degrees for your business. So see you then. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.